Welcome to the Global Discussion, a discussion with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name is Simon Hodgkins. It's a real pleasure today to be joined by Karena Bell. Karena, you're very welcome to the show, but let's begin by asking you to maybe introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, your career, and what you're doing today. So over to you, Karena.
Simon, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here today, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me as well. Again, my name is Karena Bell. I'm the founder and CEO of ProfitLinz. We are a profit optimization and growth strategy firm. And how I got my start, I actually come to you today with over 30 years of enterprise Fortune 500 experience advising C-suite leaders around systems process optimization, financial optimization, enterprise IT solution, and design. I enjoyed my time in the corporate world and identified a number of areas where in my role internally, we were just making leaps and bounds. However, we always left something on the table, regardless of what our project was and what the objective was. And when I left my corporate career, I think others share the same sentiment that I did, that I never want to do this again. And what I found was, it wasn't that I never wanted to do it again. I needed to take a little bit of a break, but then come back and retool it in a way where I knew I could generate the best success for the people that I was working with and working for. And that time in the corporate environment and arena was such an education for me. I took all of that experience and developed a model and a culture within ProfitLinz that helped us deliver that today in what we do in everyone that we work with.
I love that. And yeah, I think many of us have worked in that corporate arena, or some of us still are. And you know, you do learn a lot. It is tough. And I know you have great experience, and you've worked with some great companies over the years. Did you always want to start your own firm, though? Was that always something that you had in the back of your mind throughout your corporate career? Did you always envisage this, or how did it come together?
I did. That's a great question. I did. From the time I was about 14 years old, I always knew I wanted to be a business owner and an entrepreneur. I didn't know what, and I didn't know when. My mom was a business owner, so I saw the advantages, the trials, the tribulations, the challenges, but that didn't scare me. It was very adventurous to me. And ironically, my corporate career ended on April 1st, 2019, April Fool's Day 2019, where our entire department was eliminated. And that was the nudge I finally needed to kick my goals into gear. Took a total of about 20 minutes of going through that normal roller coaster of emotions. But then after that, it seemed that this tremendous weight was lifted. And now I had the freedom to do whatever it is I wanted to do next. And it took me a little bit. It took me a little bit to get to where I am and where we are today. But boy, what a great opportunity. It was truly a great opportunity. And because I did know that in my heart, I knew I wanted to be a business owner and entrepreneur, I took advantage of my roles in every organization that I worked in and operated through the lens of a business owner. So no matter what my role was, it was my budget, it was my people, these were my projects, these were my objectives. We either failed or succeeded, and there was ownership in everything I did. And that was an education that my bachelor's degree and my MBA degree did not give me. However, it supported my real life education, Life University, or Life U. And it was just tremendous. And I had the support of wonderful leaders that would nurture my goals, and they would allow me the safety net to fail safely, where we could try different things and we could be innovative, we could be creative, we could push the boundaries. My very earliest mentor His name is Mickey Din. I give him credit wherever I can because he helped me build the foundation of how I think and operate today. And part of that was he taught me how to not just think outside the box, but to live and operate outside the box. And that has created a very unique perspective in how I approach work, in how I approach challenges and opportunities. And it's just been a tremendous, tremendous ride. And I value every person that was part of it and continues to be part of it, because what I am today is the culmination of a lot of people pouring into me and me pouring into others as a way to pay back all of the investment that others have made into me.
Really like that. I love that, actually. I mean, some great tips and advice there as well, that how, even though you were, let's say, in the corporate environment very
Mhm.
successfully, you still viewed it not as an entrepreneur, but maybe as what they term an intrapreneur. You know, you're
Mhm.
working in a corporate environment, but you still have that sort of business owner philosophy going on, you know, to help you drive the results that you need. And it's great, you know, quite often at certain periods of time in all of our careers and all of our lives, having a great mentor or a few people around you that you can rely on, you know, that, as you say, can pour that help, support, knowledge in, and vice versa. You can give a little bit back, and it's brought you to where you are, obviously, with ProfitLinz. And let's talk a little bit about profit, because in today's world, um, a lot of businesses seem to focus an awful lot on growing the business at any cost, just scale, scale, scale. And even in businesses where maybe they are achieving some of those revenues, maybe the eye isn't on the profit as much as it should be. So, could you maybe talk to that a little bit and maybe give us a little bit of insight into the way you think and the way that you work with companies with all this experience that you obviously have, Karina?
Absolutely. And you're spot on. We see this very frequently, where there is heavy focus on the top line revenue. If we need to make more profit in the organization, we need to increase revenue. What we find is that there's less focus on the actual profit. So if the company is making revenue, but the profit is going this way, you can do this all day long. However, if you shrink that gap between profit and revenue, now as the revenue climbs, the profit's going to climb along with you. And it's a multifaceted approach and perspective. When you start thinking about the profitability of a company, I think about it like a diamond. There are a number of facets that make up a diamond that can become highly valuable and priceless, and it can continue to grow in its value. And a business is the same way. There is not a one and done solution that is going to make a company highly profitable. There are a number of solutions that will make the company highly profitable to build the foundation for it to continue to thrive, scale, and grow. And that's what we strive for when we're working with our clients is let's take a look at the revenue. In fact, typically what we do is we start with a forensic financial analysis of the P&L. So we unravel every aspect of every revenue stream that is coming into an organization down to the line item level of detail, and we can identify with significant accuracy the who, what, where, and why a business is losing profit, and develop a remediation plan for that, and then also implement that with and for our clients. We don't just advise, we actually create bespoke strategic approaches for our clients, and we roll up our sleeves and deliver it through benefit realization. In the profitability of a company oftentimes can be confused with expense reduction. And that's not the case. Expense reduction is a pillar along the profitability journey, but it is not one of the primary focuses when we're looking at profitability of an organization. Now, I could talk about this for a long time, and we can go down many different avenues with that. But did I answer your question, Simon?
You did beautifully, and I really like what you said as well, because we've all seen businesses where they think they're doing really, really great, then all of a sudden they run out of runway, they run out of funding, or the economy changes, or the interest rates change, and they
Mm-hmm.
haven't been profitable, or maybe the profits
Mm-hmm.
have been going the opposite direction to your earlier point. And that's when a business can really find itself in trouble, even some really well-established brands that have been around for a long time. And I
Mm-hmm.
like what you're saying about the forensic approach that you do, and you sort of really get into the, down to the line item level of granularity to really figure out forensically what's happening in a company. And it also, and this is the point and the question I'm going to come to now, is when people hear about making more profit, I think the mind always leans towards, oh, that means getting rid of people. And we've heard a lot of headlines about that with AI coming in and the jobs panic, etc. And we've seen, we've going through at the time of recording, a lot of technology companies laying off people. You mentioned back in 2019, there were changes at the organization you were working at. But when you're looking at this, you're looking at everything, aren't you? From, have they got the right skills? Have they got the right processes? Do they need maybe some fractional C-level assistance?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that sort of part of what you're doing as well? Because it's, there's an old saying that, anybody can cut costs, but it doesn't necessarily help the business if you don't know whether you're cutting the right things or not. And none of that will help if your processes are wrong and your strategy's wrong. So could you maybe expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's a great question. And you're right. Touching on AI just for a second, and one thing I'd like to clarify, because there is so much noise out there about AI, and really when you implement AI without multiple human interactions with it, it is just another automated tool. It really is. There is a reliance, and this is what I think that the media is not getting out there, that in order for AI to be successful, it is relying heavily on human intervention. Are jobs changing? Absolutely. Are they shifting? Absolutely. But the same thing happened in the industrial age when the first type of automation came into play. Jobs changed, jobs shifted, and look where we are today. Who knows where AI is going to take us in the next, um, you know, global impactful change that will come our way. It's very interesting and exciting. And when we're working with an organization, there's two things that we come in with a priority on preserving when we think about profitability. Because like you said, there's a number of ways you can do it. The quick and easy way is cutting headcount. Uh, Unfortunately, watch those companies that are doing massive layoffs and massive headcount reduction. It's going to boomerang on them. They're going to come back and they're going to realize they cut too many people or they cut the wrong people, and then they're going to have that need right back and need that skill set right back in their organization before too long. Uh, the two things that we work to preserve when we're working with any client is their customers and their employees. So there are a number of ways that we can optimize organizations while preserving our customers, because we all know the cost of client acquisition is increasing day by day. So those clients we have, we certainly want to make sure if there is profitability opportunities there, we're restructuring clients where it makes sense and where we can. And the same thing with the employees. The best companies we work with are those that talk about if AI is on their radar, we help develop their strategy for them, and we actually help implement their AI strategy. And part of that strategy is, how are we now putting the talent that's needed in those right seats? And we always look internally first, because I have multiple interests, and everybody has multiple interests, and employees have multiple interests. And our greatest asset are those resources and those people, that intellectual property that's within our organizations and we're not tapping into it. So many times when we see someone in a role, we think about them very one-dimensionally, when actually they are multidimensional. And let's tap into those resources, give them opportunities, create shadow programs where we're training them to do something differently. And I know growing up in the corporate culture, the leadership that I was fortunate enough to work under throughout my career, we always said, let's grow our own. Let's grow our own. And oftentimes there was very distinct pathways that we would do that in. But now when we work in such dynamic economies and global economies, the question is, this is our need. Who has that skill set? Who's interested in it? Who's doing that after normal working hours because they love it so much and lean into their passions? So that's another aspect of how we like to um, transition people when there is that moment of change into something less anxiety filled and more lined with excitement and adventure of where can we go next and how many people can we take with us to get us there?
It's very interesting the way you've answered that question, because we often see, don't we, big companies laying off lots of people, and then we do see the cyclical wave, and all of a sudden they've got to hire again,
Mhm.
and that does happen a lot. And I think AI, you made a great point with AI being another automation tool to a point, and humans have to be, as we talk about it currently, in the loop. Now, who knows what that looks like in 10 years' time or how much involved we need to be. But I was interesting that when you were talking, I was reflecting on, there's a big brand that's known in certain parts of the world, Toys R Us. They're a huge retailer, a very,
Mhm.
very well-known brand. And they just released an AI film, like an advert type film for a brand, which is one of the first brands to sort of go with that. But to your point, you had the marketing people within that organization. So you had humans involved in that and the planning and what they wanted it to say and the storyboarding. Then you had, I know they worked with an agency called Native Foreign. So you had the people in the agency working on it. And yes, AI was part of that workflow, but it didn't replace getting that right for the brand as a global message. And
Mm-mm.
it's just interesting when you were saying it from that perspective. It's so right that the, humans using the new tools, whatever they are, the tools change all the time.
Mhm.
But again, maybe if you don't cut the right things, or if you don't explore the right areas for profitability, you're going to end up in trouble one way or the other. And the question I've got for you on that is about, do you find when you're doing this forensic examination of a business, when you're helping them to increase their profitability, that they have maybe untapped revenue opportunities, that there's maybe revenues that they're leaving on the table? So the opposite side of that coin, rather than sort of the cost side, maybe the opportunity side. Does that feature much in the work that you do?
It absolutely does. We A lot of businesses we work with have between 1 and 3 revenue streams, maybe 4. Our goal is to get them up to 5, 6, 7 revenue streams. That makes sense. And what we're looking for is, I like to equate it to fingers on the same glove. What are those revenue streams that make sense for us to align with? What is, if we're a product, what is someone buying if they're not buying our product? Maybe we need to buy the competitor and capture market share that way. Maybe we need to create accessories for a product. There's a number of different ways. Maybe we need to enter into a joint venture with someone who has already built the next version or expanded on what we've done that can be a bolt-on or an add-on or value add. So absolutely, we are looking at uh, increasing the revenue streams, increasing that profitability. So it's a significant injection of cash flow and capital back into the organization that will compound annually.
That's great. And I suppose there's not many chief executives out there or executive boards that aren't looking for more revenue growth, of course. Um, but when it comes to this process that maybe they have to go through, when it
Mhm.
comes to this understanding and guidance that you can offer, to them. Is it the kind of business where people recognize they have a problem and they can come to you? Or do you have to go out, actively looking for these clients that you can work with? And when you do that, regardless of whether they're coming to you or whether you're going out, do you find commonalities in the issues that companies are facing, or is everyone a completely bespoke situation, Karena?
There's a number of questions in that question. A lot of our business is through client referral or professional referral. We are actively going out and we're working on a new brand launch, probably the end of this month. We are a bit of a well-kept secret, and we're working to change that. Fundamentally, there are patterns, whether it is a $1 million company or 100 or even 10 billion or $100 billion company. Fundamentally, we find a lot of similar challenges and opportunities that we're running into. However, every business, we do take a bespoke approach. And we do create customized architectural business solutions for each of the clients we work with, because there are unique aspects to every organization. And a lot of times, there hasn't been exploration done in certain parts of an organization. And it's very interesting when we have the opportunity to do that, because typically what I like to do when we engage with a client is I like to engage in a 90-day agreement. And within 90 days that, we prove the value, we show the value. In the first 30 days, we're going to diagnose. In the second 30 days, we're going to assess and make recommendations. And for anything that is agreed upon, we'll implement. And in the 90 days, we're actually showing benefit and starting to track for those that are very quick turnarounds, and we can see value. Some of our recommendations will be longer term implementations. What I love to work on the basis of results that I can tell you what we can do for you. I'd rather show you. And I'd rather show you in a way that was predictive. If you do X, you will see Y with a very slight variant. And that's where I think we set ourselves apart in a commoditized consulting world where we roll up our sleeves with our clients. We don't just give advice. We give advice with strategic planning and the guidance in driving the implementation, because everyone I talk to is short on time, resources, and money. No one is sitting around looking for their next challenge. They have plenty of challenges on their plate, and they're looking for help. A lot of times it is a majority of folks that we're working with, they're self-aware. They know they have challenges that's a little bit chaotic. If everyone's telling the truth, whose business isn't chaotic? And really, who couldn't use some extra hands if we're all telling the truth, myself included?
Yeah, I like it. I
People,
really like it, Karena. And thank you for taking us through that sort of breakdown. We've talked about revenues. We've talked about costs. One thing that doesn't come up an awful lot in these kind of conversations, at least in my experience, is cost containment. Quite often things tend to grow and creep, and something that started off with a particular cost base, all of a sudden you look at it and it's 3 times worse than you thought it was. Is there any sort of tips or advice, or how do you best sort of focus on cost containment or keeping things in line with what you actually are trying to achieve?
yes, and you're absolutely right. It's amazing how things creep in when we're not looking. In cost reduction and cost containment is critical. And the best way to do that is, one, you need people that are trained in contract negotiation, and not just negotiation, but contract monitoring, because that's key. Once you negotiate contracts, You want to make sure you have the monitors and controls in place to make sure what's put in place stays in place. Because things will tend to veer off the road and get outside the lines. And as soon as you stop looking at something, things will start to run off the road. So you want to make sure that you have those monitors and controls in place that are throwing triggers when things are starting to trend before they reach a critical point. So you definitely want to make sure you've defined your variances and you're watching those, or someone is watching those for you. That's an area we see a lot of success within, because a lot of times once a contract is negotiated, it's not revisited until it's time to renegotiate. And there's those darn auto renews on contracts will get people a lot. We see a lot of opportunity in that. So that's an area we enjoy working with as well. And um, with every client, I always set my own profit goals that I want to hit for them. And so that's what really drives me when I'm working with each client I'm working with. The goals are different, but the expectation is high. And we have a lot of fun doing that because when you think about it, getting away from the business side of it, you think about the people side of it, re-injecting 7 or 8 figures into a business, the impact, not only does it have at the leadership level and the business level, it's all of the families within those businesses that business supports. And when part of that profitability is going back into lowering healthcare premiums, implementing wellness programs, adding additional training, all of the folks that have built that business have made that business successful, and they're reinvesting in the people of that business. That's an extraordinary project. Those are projects that we love to work on, and that align very well with our values.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you're saying again there because it's I suppose it comes back to what you're saying as well. You know, you need to be aware, you need to know what to measure, you need to be looking at the right dashboards and dials, and you need to keep an eye on this stuff, you know, otherwise it
Mhm.
can maybe run a little bit off the rails. And some really successful businesses with great revenues and great profits find that when they do take their eye off the ball, that's when things, you know, over a number of years can move substantially. So it's
Mm.
great to hear you talking about that sort of cost containment and also the training element in it. But I love, and I really love what you said about when you can then bring that back as an injection into the business that then helps support people, helps it a better place to be, helps the longevity of the business. It's almost like a self-fulfilling flywheel, isn't it? It just starts to work on an ongoing basis. So thank you, Karina.
No, I was just going to say typically that's part of our strategic recommendation is where is that injection for the employee community.
Yeah, such a vital part, and as you say, that can really change things in an environment, can't it? So
Mm.
thank you. I was going to say I do want to move the conversation on a little bit, and one of the questions I like to ask the guests is about what they're thinking about as a business owner, as a founder, as a chief executive. When you think about the next 6 months, the next 12 months, maybe the next 24 months, you mentioned relaunching the brand, but are there things on your
Mhm.
horizon? Is there anything that you're working on for the future? Or any sort of thoughts you want to leave us with, maybe, and touching on some of the stuff we've focused on here today?
Yes. Oh gosh, I'm constantly thinking about the future. Yes. Um, I am continually seeking for methodologies, tools, applications, and how we can increase profitability in different ways across organizations. Right now, we have about 80 to 90 different solutions, applications, methodologies that we can apply. And I'm continually seeking those partnerships that can help us bring that to the table. Also, different services that I like to find gaps that aren't being filled. Oftentimes, providing a service, a lot of times people aren't even aware it exists. and so I'm always looking forward. To me, to replicate something is easy. To create something new is not. And that's typically where you get the biggest reward is when you are doing something new or something different. And that also applies with our clients in helping them to identify those aspects as well. If there's one thing that I would love to leave for your listeners is that continue to operate with a sense of curiosity in everything you do, whether it's personal or professional. Operate with a questioning attitude as to not ask the question why just to ask the question why, but if you ask the question why, can it be done differently? Are we doing the best we can do? Can we do more? Are we not serving a community we should be serving? Is there a community that isn't being served at all? Can we serve them? Uh, Again, whether it's professional or personal, that curiosity will naturally blend between your personal and professional life, and it will certainly take you places you probably have never thought of before. And it's going to be a great adventure when you do.
Like that a lot. And if people want to find out more about what you're doing of ProfitLinz, about all this great work that you're doing, if people are watching or listening to this and they do want to really focus on getting that strategic profit maximized, they want to help with some of the things we've touched on today, where's the best place to send people to or point people to get in touch, Karena?
Oh, they can go to our website, ProfitLinz, LINZ.com, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am Karena M. Bell. Would love to connect.
Well, look, that brings us nicely to the end of our discussion here today on the global discussion. I want to thank everybody who's watching or listening to this episode around the world. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, do everything I need you to do to help support the show, and go and check out what's happening over at ProfitLinz and everything that Karena's involved in. Thanks very much indeed for your time today. Join me back here for some more discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers just like Karena. Thank you, Karena. It's been wonderful to talk to you today.
Thank you, Simon. It was my pleasure.